Hey everyone, since I started making videos on this channel, things have been going okay for me. No massive problems. I'm still like a loner in all aspects of my life, but that's how I like it. My health has been okay, like I haven't relapsed in any of my old addictions and I have no issues with where I live. Work's going okay, and despite the constant threat of redundancies in the sector I work in, but I've got nothing to complain about. But still, I constantly seem to be just plagued with worries. Looking at my life objectively, like trying to look at it from somebody else's perspective, I've got nothing to be worried about. I enjoy my job, I've got my house, and I'm not in any serious debt. I also have plenty of time to do whatever I want with it. And to be honest, I can't help but feel guilty about all these things. But I'd like to share some of the things I'm worried about here and what I'm doing about them. I find it does really help speaking about what's on your mind out loud, even if it is just to yourself, if you're alone in a room somewhere. Before I started all this online content creating, I never realized how useful that was. For someone who doesn't speak to others very often, it's like having someone to talk to, someone who listens to you, someone who can help you come up with solutions, or perhaps more problems you can then worry about for the rest of the day. But anyway, let's get started. I think a lot of the things I worry about in life stem from just having way too much free time. I spent the last decade almost just optimizing my life as much as possible. I live a 5-minute walk away from where I work, and everything else I need is within a 10-minute bicycle ride maximum from my house. I've got no interest in expensive things or travel, so these things don't take up any of my time. And I don't watch any shows, movies, or really play any video games anymore, except for Minecraft. In fact, I wouldn't say I had any real hobbies at all, things that I'd look forward to doing. On top of all this, having so much free time, I don't really have any big problems in life, at least not compared to normal people. Oh well, I say this, thinking about my colleagues at work who, they seem pretty normal compared with me. They seem to constantly be worried about all kinds of similar issues, so like petty drama and gossip in their friend groups, being in mountains of debt and yet constantly going on expensive overseas holidays. In fact, one big worry recently I keep hearing about from other people that I work with is that everyone is starting to realise that they aren't the young generation anymore. Somehow everyone I work with is either a millennial or a young Gen Xer. So we don't really interact with any Zoomers, but all of a sudden everyone started going really hard on the gym, starting these fad diets and getting into these Korean skincare regimes. Now, I go for days without even seeing my own reflection, and I've already accepted that I'm one of the old ones now. So all of this is just fantastic entertainment for me, sat in the corner at work. But when it comes to my worries, the things I worry about, well, how about this for an analogy? So let's say you're in a forest and there's like a battle or a war going on all around you. There's so much noise everywhere, like people shouting and screaming and explosions, all that crazy nonsense. And clearly there is a lot to worry about. So you don't think about the small things, you're just trying to survive and keep out of harm's way. But now let's say scenario 2, you're in the same forest and you're all alone, it's peaceful, it's completely silent. But then, all of a sudden, you hear a twig snap in the distance, like somebody stepped on it. And in that moment, all you can think of is that sound. Is there somebody out there, and are they after you? In the first scenario, that wouldn't even register in your mind, a twig snapping in the distance. At the time, there are much bigger things to focus on. But when the chaos has calmed down, things that were completely insignificant are now, the biggest problem, the only thing on your mind. I'm not sure where I first heard this analogy, but it's been something I've been thinking a lot about I suppose, for the last few years. So I don't have any immediate big problems. I'm either constantly on edge, waiting for the next problem, or my mind blows really small ones out of proportion, and, well, they're all I can focus on. And, okay, here are some examples then. So, I live in a terrace house, so this is where you've got my house, then either side there's another house, and they're like stuck to my house. So we share a wall on each side. On one side, I'm pretty sure there's like a young family who live there, but even in the last 5 years, I haven't actually ever met them. But they're very quiet and they're very nice neighbours to have. On the other side, though, it's an ex-rental property. It's empty, but the landlord has been doing some renovations for the last sort of 6 months or so. And I'm going to be honest, I'm always really on edge whenever he's in doing them. Fortunately, for the most part, it's only during the day, so not much in the night or evenings, but when he's doing them, it's always so loud, and, well, I've got no idea exactly what he's up to. I've got this huge worry that something bad is going to happen to my house and, like he's going to cause some damage somehow, or that, perhaps he's going to dump a load of, like, construction waste on my property and I'll somehow have to deal with it or be in trouble. It really gets me down when I'm at home during the day for any reason, which is why I'm really not looking forward to all the paid time off I've got to take from work over the summer. Oh yeah, that's another thing about my job, and that's we get a ridiculous amount of paid time off that we have to take by the start of September. My colleagues always run out of it somehow and complain that it's not enough, but I think they don't realise how good they have it, compared with others, particularly those overseas. And to be honest, I'd rather they just paid me more and gave me less time off, like I could sell the holiday somehow. But I'm weird like that, It's the life of a loner. Anyway, the thing about these concerns I have about this renovation work so far is that they're all just completely unfounded. Other than the noise, there's not been any problems, like the neighbour hasn't caused any damage, that I know of, and he's always very respectful. He even took a load of stuff to the tip for me that I had piled up in my garden, so like an old radiator. So all of these worries I have are just hypotheticals I've made up in my head, that I've gotten worked up over. I know that perhaps some of this could be helped with better communication, so I know what's going on, and by having more of a life outside of work, so I don't just waste all of my time off sitting around in the house. But, well, this is how my life is as a loner, I guess. I'll have to add that one to the downsides list. The next thing I've been pretty worried about recently, and I think this one, perhaps this isn't just me, is that I'm not sure I'm having original thoughts anymore, or at least they aren't as common. While I don't use any social media platforms anymore, so no Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. I mean, I use YouTube, but I don't know, maybe that's the worst one actually. And it's really easy to be tempted at work, whenever I have to write anything, to just use AI to do it all for me, so reports and emails and so on. And I don't think, in fact, I'm actually certain that I'm not the only one doing this where I work. So things I've read, that other people have sent me are probably AI written, and I've gotten used to hearing other people's opinions on things and thinking they're my own, and almost thinking in the writing style that the AI uses. How positive it always is, how it uses unusual words to describe things, and how it always seems to list points in threes. So that was an example. But seriously, it almost makes me think, what is it to be a human anymore if we don't have our own thoughts anymore? No one else I know seems to be worried about this, like they've got their own real problems in life to deal with. But, well, for me, I'm happy I've gotten off of most social media. Maybe I need to get into more of a habit of creating things without looking them up online first. Like, I have a few ideas for new videos, so ones that aren't just me complaining about my life like this one. And I'd like to put together the notes I use for the videos without looking into the topics first. And perhaps this will help, at least help me show that I have some thoughts left in my head. And the last thing I want to talk about is the "and then what" problem. And I think that this is applicable to anyone in a similar situation. Let's say I'm not happy with something at the moment, I can't take living where I am at the moment, and I want to move and get myself a new place to live. But then what? Did I really solve the underlying issue of what I'm worried about? What do I do next? I'll still have loads of time to fill. This is probably one of the biggest things preventing me from starting anything big at the moment. Like, I always wanted to learn a new language, for example, and of course I've got the time for it. But if I commit all that time and learn a new skill, there still needs to be a plan of what to do. What to do with it, at least in my mind. I'm not really in a position to move abroad, and I rarely even move more than a mile from my house, to be honest. And the frustrating thing at the moment, though, is I just don't have an answer for this. I do envy the people who have, like, a journey they're on, like maybe they've got some problem that they're trying to overcome. But then, I suppose thinking of it, they would probably envy the stability and peace of my life. So, I don't know. I'm open to any suggestions, though. How have you dealt with the "and then what" problem, if you've ever faced it? One thing I have been doing over the since the Great Lockdown has been keeping a journal. I don't write in it often. In fact, I only actually write in it when I'm particularly down, and, I'd like to read the first entry from August 2020. Let me just grab the journal. I've been thinking of starting this for a while, but I'm not sure how to start. Why? Well, I've always put little value on possessions. However, I feel like I have no memories, as if my past never existed, or perhaps it did happen to somebody else. Who am I writing this for? Maybe future me, so I can remember I existed, or maybe this is just a chronicle of my descent into madness. Pretty dramatic, huh? Though in some way it feels as though nothing has really changed since then, since 6 years ago now. But I would recommend people give journaling a try, particularly if things are tough. It does help you remember things. In fact, maybe that'll help one of my worries. If I get back into it, maybe my original thoughts will come back too, and I'll have a regular habit to work on. Talking things out, out loud, does actually help sometime. Anyway, this video was just me trying to get some thoughts out there. I didn't come to any great conclusions or have any big advice, and in fact it was kind of all over the place. If you have any worries though that sound silly when you think them through, don't feel as though you're the only one that feels that way. And to be honest, most people probably do have the same problem, thinking about it. They just don't complain about it as much as I do on YouTube. But thanks for listening though, and I'll see you in the next one.